what we want to do now is we want to spice our scene up a little bit and really get it looking better. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to turn something on here. So let's click this third slate here, and I already have it checked. That's so it was already added, but let me show you. So if yours wasn't looking quite like mine, what you can do is go to Effect, and you can choose ambient inclusion. And what that's going to do is it's going to really bring out the highlights of our brightness and our reflections, and it's just going to add a little bit of detail to our renders. So if I click ambient inclusion, it's fine with what it has. You don't want your system to lag too bad. And there it goes. So I actually had it added, but yours should look like mine now, if you're kind of following along. And like I said, you can kind of play around with your lighting and all of that, play around with the placement. All that good stuff is fine. But we're really starting to see this, and it's looking more alive here. But let's get it a little more alive. Let's play around with this a little bit more. So what I want to do is I actually want to play around with my lights here, and I want to change the color of these lights. So I'm just turning these off here so I can just see what I'm lighting. So on light 1, let's go to general, and we're just going to change some of the colors that are happening on our thing here. And I'm just kind of playing around with this. So what you kind of deal with is up to you. And it doesn't matter what colors you add. I just kind of am playing around. I'm just clicking each light and just sort of adding. Sort of want a nice balance here. So light 2, let's add something. Well, purple is on the other side, so let's add something a little bit warmer maybe. Yeah, that's looking alright. And then on the last light, let's just go ahead and add something maybe a little too much purple. So that's my top. I want a nice bounce. So I just went in and played around with the colors here to manipulate. So all I did was just click and drag on each light and just see what I had. And wow, that is looking really good. I'm liking that. I'm liking what's happening. So remember, you can go in and change the color of your lights, and however you want to do it is up to you. You can come in and double click those and play around with your light settings. And now this is sort of looking pretty good. Let me show you one more thing that you can do as far as, now a lot of times what a lot of 3D artists do is they go into After Effects and they play around with certain stuff. And if you're not liking if you think it needs to be a little bit brighter, feel free to bump your intensity up on some of these. So if I want to put this at like 150, I don't know, that's really bright on that side, but you can see how those highlights are starting to show on that side. Now 150 is kind of crazy, so I'll just do something like 115. And like I said, this is all up to you. This is all what you can play with when you're working with this, but it's starting to look more realistic at this point, and it's not that flat, basic look. So this is one of the ways that you can do this. All right. The other thing that I'll show you really quickly is this picture to render viewer. So you can actually post-process this, and a lot of people do this in After Effects. But since we're just in Cinema 4D right now, we'll just kind of play around with this. So let me show you. We don't have any animation, so it's going to affect the whole project. So just click on this one time, and it shows our render. And I want to take a look right over here. And really what you want to look at is filter. So if I click on filter, we have options to go in and play around with this. In order, you can see that I can't do anything. So if you click enable filter, look at what I can do. I can go in, now tone mapping, I'm going to keep that at 0. You can go in and play around with your saturation. So if you wanted it black and white, or if you wanted to really boost that up to really get those colors popping a little bit, you can do that. I can also tweak the brightness. I don't want it to be too bright, but 5%, that's cool. And 5% is usually where I would leave brightness if I wanted it to get a little bit brighter. Exposure, you can just see how that kind of works. Leave that at 0. But you can play around with any of these. But really what I would look at, like you have this grade intensity. And if you wanted to go in and play around with your RGB, the red, green, blue, we kind of did that in Premiere. But if I click up here, right, and I go in and I start tweaking this, look at what happens. I can go in, if I bring those reds down a little bit, I can bring that red that's bleeding really out from that light and tweak it down. I can also click this top on the green and I can bring this down if I wanted to really sort of tweak this. And then the blues, if I wanted to cool it off, I could bring those up and down. But I really don't really mess with these settings like that. You know, maybe I may want to brighten up my scene a little bit, so I jump that up to like 5%. But that's good. But what's going to happen is it's going to save in the render now. And I'm liking this. So if I bring something else into the scene, let's say I bring a square in. And I add that same material and bring it down. Now, there we go. Let's see what actually happens here as far as what it looks like. And you can see that based on the direction of the square where it's at, it's really not doing anything because those lights aren't really focused on that object. So that's how you really can tweak and work with your projects here and get your lighting for your scenes good. But overall, I'm really happy with the look of this, and it looks realistic in a sense. So that's where I will stop this video.